Now, here are your hosts, Tom Stevens and Mike Melby.
Welcome in, kids. It is Sunday Rewind. Tom Stevens here, Mike Melby there. Normally Broncos football on the air, so we'll try to work around that. Some technical difficulties, so we can go early. The Broncos are still playing. I don't know what the score is, but they're supposed to be on the air. But we're going to take it. Big news today. In case you missed it in Nebraska football, Scott Frost fired following the Georgia Southern game. And this week, it's defensive coordinator Eric Shenander that has been let go by head coach, at least interim head coach, Mickey Joseph. And your thoughts on that, Mike? That's a big deal. I didn't see that necessarily coming. It wasn't something that I thought was necessarily going to happen today. In fact, it wasn't even in my mind. It was like the whole team played badly. I understand why you might fire the defensive coordinator because they've been bad all year. But the offense, the defense, the special teams, everybody was bad yesterday, right?
They all were, yeah. I was actually surprised Shenander was not fired last week. I genuinely thought he would have been the first change of the staff that Mickey would have made. I don't know if there's any more coming. We'll hear from a former Husker All-American quarterback about some interesting things here in a bit. Steve Taylor is going to join us. It's an interview that we recorded a little while ago, anticipating not being on the air until later this evening. But I actually thought Shenander would have been fired last week. He obviously was not, but I'm not going to be surprised if there's other changes prior to the Indiana game. Is just my sentiment. I don't know that this is going to be the final domino to fall, but no surprise. We were talking last Sunday in the wall-to-wall DP's 9-hour coverage of Scott Frost.
That was fun, wasn't it?
It was a blast. And you know what the funny thing is, too, is that goes down. Where does everybody in Lincoln or Nebraska fans across the world go to? They go to theticketfm.com. I mean, the number of people we saw streaming and watching that 9 hours of live coverage was insane.
It was insane. It was great.
That's, it's just a testament to what DP's done with the station and all the, former players and people that just are pretty damn good at their jobs. So it was great coverage last week, but Rashawn made the point last week that he didn't think that, it was all going to be said and done before this week got here. And so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Big show for you. Of course, we'll talk about Eric Shenander being let go, the defensive coordinator at Nebraska. We'll do our Big Ten Blitz, go through all of the games in the Big Ten this week, and we'll do our rankings. And it's probably not very difficult to kind of get a feel for where Nebraska might be ranked in our rankings this week. We've got that interview with Steve Taylor to share with you, and we're going to do the Wheel of Coaches. Who do you want to see at Nebraska? But as per norm, we get to the starting gate. All right, Mike, run through everything that's happened in the week of sports.
It's kind of a slow week in sports, so we're going to focus on some things that are hitting closer to home. Tuesday, Nebraska Volleyball falls for the first time this year. They lost 3-1 to number 9 Stanford. Nicklin Hames was injured in the match. However, Nebraska Volleyball rebounded. Earlier today, Nebraska knocks off number 13 Kentucky in Louisville. 27-25, 27-20, 27-16. They get the sweep over the 13th ranked Wildcats, and pretty spectacular win. Hames did not play. They still ran the 6-2. Kennedy Orr and Ani Evans switching off in the setter spot, and I believe they had 35 assists between the two of them. Lexi Rodriguez had 15. Diggs and Whitney Lonstein once again led the team in kills with 9. Maddie Kubik had 11 kills. Maddie Kubik had 9.
Right.
Big time turnaround for the volleyball team after kind of a disappointing loss. Stanford and Wisconsin have got their number for some reason.
Yeah. Well, Craig Skinner won a national title just a couple of years ago at Kentucky, so that's still a nice win. And you would like to think that maybe he would be one of the guys that when Cook hangs it up, he might at least give him a buzz and see what's going on.
There's a couple of them, I think, that you may have some former Nebraska assistants fighting for it. College football yesterday, top 10, all won by double digits. However, number 11, 12, and 13 all fell yesterday. Michigan State knocked off by Washington. We all know, I mean, as Nebraska fans, when we would play out in Seattle, man, that is a tough place to play. And Mel Tucker and the Spartans found that out. 39-28. They lose to Washington. Number 12, BYU, upset by number 25, Oregon, 41-20. Number 13, Miami. What the hell was that at the end of that game from an offensive standpoint for Miami? I don't know, but they lose to Texas A&M 17-9.
Are either of those teams any good?
Supposedly, well, A&M had like the greatest recruiting class in the history of college football.
And they got beat by Appalachian State last week.
Yeah, now they managed to come back and beat Miami 17-9. And then fun side note, I don't know that it's fun, but an interesting side note, in the Houston Cougars 48-30 loss to Lance Leipold and the Kansas Jayhawks, 2 receivers wound up getting into a fight on the bench. One of the receivers, I never saw exactly what caused the whole team to be mad at the one wide receiver, but the other one came over and shoved him and like literally pushed him off his feet down.
Good stuff.
The kid that was falling grabbed the other guy's face mask, and then fists were flying, and they hugged it out later. But Dana Holgerson has got his hands full down in Houston. 10 penalties for 73 yards. And Houston was a team, a lot of people were like, are they going to be the Cincinnati of this year? Well, they lost 2 straight games. I don't think so.
Well, by the way, if you're on the wheel of coaches, Lance Leipold probably ticked up a few notches last week with a big win over West Virginia. This week, a nice win over Houston. They're 3-0 for the first time in a million years, I think. Kansas?
I think it's 1,000,004 years.
1,000,004 years. So there you go. I do want to get to some of the sound bites from following the game. Mickey Joseph spoke to the media, but this was interesting what Trev Alberts said after Scott Frost was fired.
Just Coach Frost. Again, Mickey Joseph is the head coach, and if he chooses to make some of those additional changes, we will support those changes as well. But I am not aware of any of those that he anticipates at this time.
Well, now we're aware of it because the defensive coordinator, Eric Shenander, has been dismissed. And Mike said, hey, I could have seen that happening last week when Frost was let go. But they wait one more week. Nebraska gives up 580 more yards to Oklahoma. And really, Oklahoma could have called the score in that 49-14 win. I didn't think Oklahoma played, especially at quarterback, particularly well. But they were much more dominant than Nebraska, the much better team, much more talent. And Nebraska just didn't seem to have a lot of will outside the first few minutes of the ball game. Let's get to some of the comments from Mickey Joseph. Why did he play Chubba Purdy?
No, we needed to get Chubba some reps. I thought Chubba played okay when he got in there. He made some mistakes, but I thought he was aggressive, and he gave us a chance to sustain drives.
Tackling has been a big conversation piece over the last couple of weeks. Nebraska's terrible at it. This is Mickey talking about fundamentals, the fundamentals of tackling and everything else.
More drill work, more drill work, more bump combo, more 9-on-7, more turnover drills. More drill work, less teamwork, because the teamwork don't matter if the individual work is no good.
This is Mickey talking about looking for some new guys to make an impact on the team.
No, we're gonna go back and look at this film, and we're gonna dissect this film, and we're gonna find the kids that was doing what we was asking them to do, and the kids that can tackle and that can block and do the right things, and we're gonna increase their reps if there wasn't a starter.
If Mickey didn't want this coaching gig, I don't think he would have made all the moves that he has made, more tackling drills, more individual drills. He fires his defensive coordinator. I think he really thinks that, and every coach should think this way. It's going to be tough for him to get this team to play at a high enough level to even win 5 more games, right? They need 5 wins to get to a bowl game. If he does that at this point, it's a minor miracle, Mike.
It might be. I was, it's interesting. You guys will hear this in a bit, our conversation with Steve Taylor, but he talks about Mickey Joseph, and he talks about the intangibles and the it that Mickey Joseph possesses just within his aura because he is Mickey Joseph and he just has this it ability about him.
He does have a quality.
And exactly to your point that you just made, he's doing things that say, we have problems. I own them now. I'll take full responsibility for them.
And he pointed to himself several times after the game.
I am going to start making changes that are going to solve our problems. And it's a pretty big one today, letting Coach Chenander go. But it's one that needed to happen. I honestly, in my opinion, like I said, I thought it should have happened last week.
One of the other things he said is Nebraska needs to be better at recruiting. You look at the field, you can tell Oklahoma is more talented than Nebraska.
I think we got to do a better job in recruiting. They had better skill players. You know, we got to do a better job. But we have really good skill players also. We just got to get them to execute.
He did mention that Teddy Prohaska is redshirting.
Yes, Teddy's going to redshirt. Teddy's done for the year. He's going to redshirt.
So an injury 2 years in a row to Teddy Prohaska. He didn't redshirt last year. He played as a true freshman. This year he gets injured. So that's at least a good thing for Nebraska that they save a year for Teddy Prohaska.
Definitely. And you know, he was one that it was interesting because I was kind of disappointed in the way he played. And I know he was as well the first couple of games. And then when you hear him talk about his play, especially in the first half of the first three games, he was getting in his own head. And he was trying to think too much as opposed to just going out and doing what he had always done, which is just go dominate people. And it's one of those, you're like, no wonder he's in his head a little bit. He just, had major knee injury less than a year ago, and he's trying to come back from the surgery and all that type of stuff. On top of now, he's not the freshman coming in that there's no expectations. He's now expected to be the best lineman at the university that used to produce All-American after All-American.
And even those All-Americans didn't play as true freshmen.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost never.
Yeah. So I props to Teddy for the work he put in last year, and hopefully rehab and everything goes well for him this next offseason, and he comes back and is just an absolute terror on the offensive line for the Huskers next year.
Mickey Joseph, one more for you. He says the bye week can help us.
The bye week's going to help because we can reevaluate some players. We had some young kids, had some snaps and had some good snaps, I thought. So we would look at some young players and see if they can help us. If they can help us, we increase their reps.
I like him in front of the media. He's very clear. You could tell he's got some authority behind what he says. I love what he said last week when O'Shawn Mathis said, this is a losing culture. And Mickey said, no, it's not a losing culture. We're just losing a lot of close games. Well, the Oklahoma game wasn't close. So now maybe you can signal that it is kind of more of a losing culture. But he also said, after O'Shawn said that, yeah, by the way, I got to do a better job of telling what guys to say. I mean, and I like that. I like a coach that is in control, because you haven't always seen that, whether it was Riley or sometimes Bo Pelini or whoever was in charge. It felt like it was just a little bit willy-nilly sometimes. And under Frost, that happened a lot. That there were missteps in what he said and what the players said sometimes.
And I'll tell you, like, one of the post-game pressers that I always was just dumbfounded by, and you mentioned that Mickey's very polished in front of the media, and you appreciate the openness and the honesty. And you and I have talked. I mean, I hate it when we win a press conference. Okay, nobody gets anything for winning a press conference.
No, I get that.
Mickey wins press conferences by not winning the press conference, not saying what everyone wants to hear, by simply being open and honest. And you know what? It's the reason why he's a hell of a recruiter and kids want to come play for him. But there was a game, I don't remember what it was, 2 years ago, and Frost made the comment in the post game. It was like 4th and 21, and we run a quarterback draw or a read option. And in the post game, they ask him about it. You're down by 4. It's 4th and 21 from, the 21. It's 4th and goal, whatever. Final, did you not, what? Why did you call a quarterback draw? And he goes, I don't have a play for 4th and 21. He said that. Right. I don't have a play for 4th. Really? And as soon as he said it, I will not repeat all of the words I said, but then I said just, out loud to my TV, right. Then why are you the head coach at a Power 5 program?
Well, he isn't anymore.
Good point. Very good point.
He has moved on, and so has his defensive coordinator, Eric Chenander. I want to get to the Big Ten Blitz. That's coming up in just a few minutes. You mentioned our interview. We've recorded it already, so we know it's good. With the
All-American
quarterback, Steve Taylor. He's going to be in hour number 2. I also want to do the wheel of coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody's got their favorite, right? Everybody's got their guy that's going to turn Nebraska football around and start winning championships again. We thought that guy was Scott Frost, but that didn't work out. So who is next? The wheel of coaches is coming up, but next it is the Big Ten Blitz.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $22.58 per hour. And other select jobs is starting at $24.28 per hour, with wages growing up to $30.30 per hour. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Mike Shaver here for Trek CBD. Summer is here, and that means you're having garage parties with neighbors, hitting the golf course and the pool. The drink of this summer isn't your typical seltzer. It's drinkable Delta 8. Yep, Trek CBD has drinkable Delta 8 seltzers with mango and lime flavors for 4-packs, 12-packs, coming in a variety of mango, watermelon, lime, and berry. They also have hemp-derived Delta 9 syrups to put in your beverages, and as always, the excellent Delta 8 gummies. Trek CBD at 84th and Andermatt and TrekCBD.com. Trek CBD, CBD done right.
There's nothing quite like the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese beef. The Mercado offers unique ingredients you can't find anywhere else, open every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The full-service butcher shop and retail store is wonderful for meat lovers with their exclusive Certified Piedmontese beef and assorted sausages, plus other quality meats, including pork, chicken, and a wide range of the freshest seafood. Plus, every Friday from 11 to 2, the Mercado serves up the best lunch in town on their Friday Feast menu. Stop in at the Mercado today at 84th and Havelock or visit their website at cpmercado.com to see current deals.
People always ask, what are Jake and Sip like when they're off the air? Well, the answer probably won't surprise you.
Hey, Jake, your Honda's looking a little dirty.
Says the guy whose license plate is barely visible.
I mean, do you even care about that thing anymore?
It gets a little uncomfortable. Now, that's when I jump in.
Hey, whoa. Mark, did you get a new car?
Nope, just took my car down to Nebraska Auto Detail. Joe and the staff made the outside and the inside look amazing. Maybe you guys need to go. Okay, wise guy.
Settle down, Jake.
Book your appointment today at NebraskaAutoDetail.com.
We're still as busy as we've ever been. Across the country, you may see a small slowdown, but in Lincoln, Nebraska, we're not slowing down.
Bob Benish is the founder and president of Aspen Builders, online at aspenbuildersinc.com.
Our Southwest Lincoln development is just going great as we keep growing in Southwest Lincoln. Down the road, we'll have a new school, so that's exciting. We also have a new development out in East Lincoln over by Hillcrest Country Club. Just a real neat subdivision because it features trees, great views. If you're concerned about interest rates, many lenders in town offer extended lock periods. So it's worth contacting a lender and asking them about an extended lock. That's a big deal.
Make your dream home a reality and call Aspen Builders at 423-6811. Online at aspenbuildersinc.com. Your home is waiting at Aspen Builders.
This is the Sunday Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back, Husker Rewind on a Sunday. Tom and Mike, we thought we'd be a little bit later, but Broncos football never made it on the air. I don't know how they're doing, but
they're down 9-6 last I saw.
9-6. Last week, I don't know how Seattle lost that game to the Broncos, or how Denver lost that game to Seattle, I should say. Lost it like 17-16, but I think they were the first team in NFL history to fumble twice inside the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
So the Russell Wilson era, not off to a great start, but I think the Broncos actually are going to be very good this year. I really do. And we're the home for Broncos football, so that's a great thing. That's a great thing. It is time for the Big Ten Blitz. We do it every week.
The Big Ten Blitz. The Big Ten Blitz. The Big Ten Blitz. The Big Ten Blitz.
Okay, we'll kick it off. Michigan wins easily over UConn. UConn's bad, but J.J. McCarthy, the 5-star, looked really good. 15 of 18, 214. It's for 3 touchdowns, I believe. Blake Corum, 71 yards and 5 TDs for Michigan as they start 3-0, and Michigan looks pretty solid.
They do. The Fighting Salukis of Southern Illinois knock off Northwestern. Oh, my goodness. That first loss of the year by Nebraska to Northwestern looks worse and worse by the week. 31-24 was the final.
It's not like Southern Illinois has played well up to this point.
No. And
They're bad.
the Salukis scored 2 fourth-quarter TDs to come from behind and knock off the Wildcats. Let me ask you one real quick question before you get to the Syracuse and Purdue game. How much leeway does
Pat Fitzgerald gets all the leeway he wants?
So back-to-back 3-9 seasons?
Doesn't matter.
He may not get to 3 wins because he doesn't get a chance to play Nebraska again.
Northwestern, let me put it this way. Northwestern is about to build $1 billion stadium for a fan base that draws maybe 15,000 a game. They're going to build $1 billion stadium by the lake, and it's going to be beautiful because they've got the money. I mean, they're loaded. But, more power to them. But Northwestern looks awful this year, but I think Pat Fitzgerald is still safe. Syracuse, 32-29 over Purdue. Purdue falls to 1-2 on the year. Syracuse now at 3-0. Aiden O'Connell threw for a bunch of yards, but that's what he does every week. 424, 3 TDs. Purdue only rushes for 61 yards in that game. Syracuse only had 300 yards total offense. I mean, Purdue kind of dominated it, and there was some mismanagement in that game, but Syracuse knocks off Purdue.
So you're saying Jeff Brom is not high on your wheel of coaches?
He was at one time.
Exactly.
I don't like the air raid offense. I mean, you got to run the ball at least a little bit.
Yep. Indiana comes from behind, knocks off Western Kentucky. We were joking at the beginning of the season, Indiana may be the worst team in college football history. They were going to be so bad, yet I think they're 3-0. But 47 seconds left in the game. They score a touchdown, and then the Hoosiers hold on in overtime with a 51-yard field goal to knock off Western Kentucky again, 33-30.
They're 3-0, but they might be the worst 3-0 team in America.
Well, you know what? Nebraska was the best 3-9 team in America,
right.
So there you go.
I think if Indiana wins 2 more games, if they win 3 games and get to a bowl game, I'll be stunned. I really will.
I will too, but
I don't think that they will. They're a bad football team, but Nebraska knows what that's about. Rutgers 3-0 as well with a 16-14 win over Temple. Temple is now 1-2. Rutgers was not impressive, but that's kind of the recipe for Rutgers. They 59 yards passing total, only 142 yards rushing. They're kind of winning the Iowa way at Rutgers right now, but
ugly
they are
and boring.
Ugly and really, really boring, but they did get the win.
Greg Schiano became the winningest coach in Rutgers football history with that win yesterday too. Penn State knocks off Auburn 41-12. Kind of surprising to me, I guess. I was not expecting Penn State to be that good. And
that's the best non-conference win in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I truly think it is.
Yeah.
2 freshman running backs were the stars of the game for Penn State. Nicholas Singleton and Katrin Allen, 176 yards and 4 touchdowns combined between those two.
And they've been struggling to run the football, so that's good news for Penn State. 41-12, as you mentioned, over Auburn. Wisconsin 66-7 over New Mexico State. Graham Mertz 12-15, 251, 3 TDs. He did have a pick. Braylon Allen 86 yards and 3 TDs. Wisconsin did what you'd expect them to do. They blew out New Mexico State.
Minnesota 49-7 over Colorado. Mo Ibrahim 3 touchdowns on the ground. Tanner Morgan 3 touchdowns through the air. And an interesting quote from PJ Fleck following this one. You're the one that shared it with me. There was a play where Mo Ibrahim essentially got moved like 5, 6, 7 yards with the help of the offensive line and receivers, and everybody came in and pushed him into the end zone.
It was cool.
And PJ Fleck after the game said, "That's our identity. That's Minnesota football."
Remember when it was Nebraska's identity?
I know a local team that could use an identity, and they're getting one though.
Have you noticed the plastic surgery on PJ Fleck?
Yes,
it's okay.
He's a good-looking dude.
He's very handsome.
He really is.
He's a handsome man. Number 3, Ohio State over Toledo, 77-21. CJ Stroud had 5 TDs, 367 passing. They had 763 total yards in that game. Ohio State is probably still the best team in the Big Ten.
I think
breaking news.
Breaking news there. Washington knocks off 11th-ranked Michigan State 39-28. Difficult to play out in Seattle. We all know that. And Michael Penix, I wish there was some way that we could have gotten him to come to Nebraska when he transferred, but throws for 397 yards, 4 touchdowns, and the Washington defense holds Michigan State to 42 rushing yards. And I'll be honest with you, that was just a flat-out woodshed type of a game. Right. Michigan State scored a couple of TDs late and kind of started getting things to click, but man, Washington looks good.
And Michigan State was the 11th ranked team in the country, no longer, but they were going into that game. Iowa over Nevada. This is the most impressive win Iowa's had this year, 27-0. Spencer Petras looked like an actual quarterback, 14 of 26, 175. He had a TD. Iowa only rushes for 162, 337 yards total. But for Iowa, that's an offensive blitz.
I mean, when your quarterback has got a 31.3 QBR, you should be winning 27-0.
They invented boring, Iowa, and they do it. They should really be undefeated, but they are so boring. What was the stat you pointed out?
Okay, so Iowa is in the history of college football. Now, this is the history of college football. Teams that have 190 yards or fewer
that's Iowa
in a game
to a team
and do not score an offensive touchdown are 7 and 17,800 and something.
That's a crazy stat.
And 6. So there's been 7 wins and 6 ties and 17,800 losses. Iowa in those games, it's happened in their program history like 10 times. They're 6-0-4.
Yep. Well, I told you they invented boring. And Maryland over SMU, 34-27. Talia Tagovailoa, 17 of 23, 214 and 2 TDs. Now it's time to rank our teams, Mike.
Real quick, Tagovailoa got outplayed by the SMU quarterback, just saying.
I think SMU is going to be back. I don't think it's going to be long before SMU. I mean, we remember when they were cheating with the Pony Express. They were
I was going to say, is Craig James going to jump back into the fray and become a donor again, or what?
They'll find a way to cheat.
So
but they'll be back, I think.
So rankings.
Yeah.
You want to go from the bottom to the top or top to the bottom?
I'm going to go from 14 to 1. If you want to start, go ahead. You can do your rankings. I'll see if I agree with it.
14th, and I know it's going to become a shock to everybody, but Nebraska.
Yeah, I'm stunned by that. 1 and 3 and playing like the worst team in the league, that you would rank them the worst team in the league.
No, you know.
What's 13 for you?
13 for me is Northwestern.
Yep, me too.
12 is actually Purdue. I had them literally winning the West, and with their 1 and 2 start and the fact that they should have beat Penn State, I don't know. Things seem very off in West Lafayette. I got Purdue at number 12.
I ranked them a little higher just because I think they're pretty talented.
I agree.
But you could rank them probably there. I had Illinois, though, at 12. They're 2-1 right now.
And I've got Indiana at 11.
That's where I have them.
Okay.
I think they're the worst 3-0 team probably in America.
And then Iowa.
I've got Purdue there at 1 and 2.
And it's one of those where
Iowa's going to win 8 games.
I know, but I just don't like them. So I'm gonna put them.
You're ranking them there because you don't like them.
But on top of that, their offense is horrible.
Oh, it's terrible.
And I get
How does Brian Ferentz still have a job?
I have no clue.
It's almost like his dad must be the coach or something.
Oh, you know what? We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, we might look into that.
I got Rutgers next.
Okay, I've got Rutgers at 9-2.
Okay, then Maryland.
I've got Maryland at 3-0 there.
I'm trying to figure out where I got somebody ranked twice because I'm missing Illinois.
I've got Iowa at 7.
Okay, I'll give you that. I had Michigan State at 7.
I've got Michigan State at 6.
And then
that was a disappointing loss to Washington.
Well, it was, and they dropped down from
the
what
Big Ten had a bad weekend.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Outside of Penn State, the Big Ten had a bad weekend.
Yeah. And then I've got, that's where it is. I had Maryland at 6 after their win. So I'll leave Maryland at 6. Illinois would have been at 8 for me.
Okay.
So
I've got Wisconsin now at 5 at 2-1.
Same here.
Minnesota at 4, 3-0. And I think they're probably the favorite to win the West right now.
Easy. Yes. Completely agree.
I got Penn State at 3 at 3-0. I've got Michigan second. Although I don't know. I think Penn State is rising very quickly, but Ohio State's the best team in the league. 77-21 over Toledo. Again, 763 total yards. CJ Stroud is a really good quarterback. Telling you stuff you didn't know. Ohio State's the best team in the league. So there
absolutely.
You go. Running a little bit late, but we're going to do another hour of radio. What the hell? We're here anyway.
Yeah.
And we do a 2-hour show. Tonight, only going to be an hour and a half. I think DP and Bach are coming in as well.
Nice.
A little bit later on, because breaking news, Eric Shenander no longer the defensive coordinator at Nebraska, announced about, 3 hours ago, something like that, that he has been fired by interim head coach Mickey Joseph. So we'll talk about that and do our wheel of coaches. Plus, the interview with Steve Taylor. So we're busy. We got to get to it. More from Husker Rewind coming up.
Landmark Implement, your local John Deere dealership, is searching for mechanics of all skill levels to grow with us. Landmark offers a competitive wage, full benefits package, along with paid time off within just 60 days of employment, as well as a 401k and a boot and clothing allowance. Interested in becoming a part of the Landmark difference? Apply now at landmarkimp.com/careers or contact Deanna 402-310-7561 or email careers@landmarkimp.com. That's landmarkimp.com. Landmark Implement is an equal opportunity employer.
Mike Shaver here for Trek CBD. Summer is here, and that means you're having garage parties with neighbors, hitting the golf course and the pool. The drink of this summer isn't your typical seltzer. It's drinkable Delta 8. Yep, Trek CBD has drinkable Delta 8 seltzers with mango and lime flavors for 4-packs, 12-packs, coming in a variety of mango, watermelon, lime, and berry. They also have hemp-derived Delta 9 syrups to put in your beverages, and as always, the excellent Delta 8 gummies. Trek CBD at 84th and Andermatt and TrekCBD.com. Trek CBD, CBD done right.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now in our new time. We're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket.
Okay, playing 93.7 The Ticket.
Alexa, turn down the lights.
Dimming the lights.
Alexa, order a pizza, the big one, all the toppings.
Are you sure that's a good idea?
Alexa.
That's a lot of pizza for just one man.
Alexa, just do it. Stop judging me, just do it.
As you wish.
Thanks, Alexa. You're my best friend.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now in our new time. We're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $22.58 per hour. And other select jobs is starting at $24.28 per hour, with wages growing up to $30.30 per hour. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Mike Shaver here for Trek CBD. Summer is here, and that means you're having garage parties with neighbors, hitting the golf course and the pool. The drink of this summer isn't your typical seltzer. It's drinkable Delta 8. Yep, Trek CBD has drinkable Delta 8 seltzers with mango and lime flavors for 4-packs, 12-packs, coming in a variety of mango, watermelon, lime, and berry. They also have hemp-derived Delta 9 syrups to put in your beverages, and as always, the excellent Delta 8 gummies. Trek CBD at 84th and Andermatt and TrekCBD.com. Trek CBD, CBD done right.
Eustace Body Shop, where our customers send their friends. That's the greatest compliment we can receive. If you've been in an accident, we'll get you back in your vehicle as quickly as possible. Our technicians care about you and your family and repair your vehicle to factory standards. We handle your claim from start to finish and provide a free loaner car. Stop by for a free estimate. Eustace Body Shop, just south of 88th and Highway 2.
The most recommended Eustace Body Shop. That's who we are.
Back to the Sunday Rewind with Tom and Mike on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Oh, boy, I hope we paid him extra to talk backwards like that.
That's impressive. Very
I'm Mike Melby. That's Tom Stevens. And this is Husker Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. And, Tom, you're a couple years older than me, but when did it hit you to stop doing projects on your own and like, you know, don't work as hard, work smarter, like by hiring someone to rebuild your deck for you? And build a retaining wall? Because that's what Tracy and I have been doing.
Well, the advantage of not being able to build anything or fix anything is I don't have to do any of that stuff. I just say, Heidi, go ahead. I'll carry some stuff for you, I guess. But I try not to screw stuff up around the house.
Yeah, Tracy and I decided we needed to rebuild the deck and all that stuff. And the one thing that we could not do, though, was pour the concrete patio. A couple of guys, Tim and Lee from Kramer Concrete, did an unbelievable job. We got a quote literally before they left our property the day they came out, as opposed to I had a couple other people come out. I was waiting a week for one guy to get a quote back from him. Unbelievable, great service. And then they were able to fit me in a quick little, project like that. And got it done Monday and Tuesday of last week, got it poured. It's all done. And fantastic, great pricing. If you need any type of concrete work done, whether it's stamped sidewalks or a new driveway poured, or like me, a patio, give Tim or Lee a call, 402-560-0670, Kramer Concrete. One of the best in the business. They're new, and I'll tell you what, they're doing things the right way, and I know they're going to be tremendously successful. Promotional consideration paid for by Kramer Concrete.
Mike, if you could do me a favor, spin the wheel for the wheel of coaches.
I've always wanted to do this.
Bingo. It arrives at Mickey Joseph. Mickey Joseph, as we do our wheel of coaches, Nebraska's next coach, we're trying to decide who will be the guy. It could be Mickey Joseph. He's a great recruiter. He has ties, obviously, to the South, and in particular, Louisiana. He's gotten recruits from LSU. He was a national champion there as a coach. He's a good football guy. I think he lives and breathes football. The cons with Mickey is he's never been a head coach. Nebraska just fired another former quarterback. That's another one. Scott Frost didn't do well, obviously coming from Central Florida, one of the worst records in the history of Nebraska football as far as coaching is concerned. I think Mickey's a really good coach. I don't know how good the timing is for him.
The timing is perfect because he is currently the head coach.
Well, that's true.
That's one thing, and I truly appreciated DP saying this last week. As of today, Mickey Joseph is the head coach, and judging from everything we have seen and heard, he is going to do everything in his power to have that be his title for a long time. And I think the changes that he has made within the program, just the practice changes last week, and now with him letting Eric Chenander go, I'm not going to lie. He's doing things that I like and things that I think needed to be done in the program.
Spin the wheel once again, the wheel of coaches. Big bucks, no whammies, stop. It stops at Chris Peterson, 57. Currently, of course, a Fox Sports analyst, but he was 147-38 as a head coach, the bulk of that at Boise State. Also coached at Washington, where he got them into the college football playoff. Really smart guy. The con is he burnt out? I wonder about that. Plus, if you're thinking about Nebraska, he's a West Coast and mountain guy. As far as recruiting is concerned, that might be a drawback.
Yeah, and that's where I think if you're a Nebraska fan and they say Chris Peterson, the last guy we hired that came out of the Pac-10, 12, whatever it is this week, was not exactly, the pick of the litter. Granted, it was a horrible hire by a horrible athletic director, but Chris Peterson does have and has had success. Does his style fit in the Big Ten? Because as
pro style offense.
Yeah, as Coach Frost found out.
It reminds me a little bit of what Iowa does. They're just better at it.
A lot.
They're just way better at it.
Yeah, I don't know if that style would fit here. I just don't.
I think we've been down that road before with Bill Callahan.
Yep.
And the pro and Mike Riley, even with the pro style offense. I don't need it. I don't want to see. I think Chris Peterson's a good coach, but I don't want him at Nebraska. Let's spin the wheel once again, Mike. Here we go. Big bucks, no whammies. And stop. Urban Meyer. He's a Hall of Famer. He's 187-32. He's also a current Fox Sports analyst. Of course, he built two great programs before leaving Bowling Green to start with, then Utah with Alex Smith. He won national titles, obviously, at Florida and Ohio State. May not be the best person ever, as when you look at the cons. There are allegations of a toxic environment, both at Ohio State and in Jacksonville. routinely, apparently belittled players and coaches. And he's not coming because, or at least he says he's not coming.
Yeah.
So that would be another con. He's not coming.
There would be 1% of Nebraskans, if he were hired, Nebraska fans, 1% of them would burn their gear because Urban's such a jerk. And then when they're in the college football playoff in his second year, they would go buy new stuff. But it's a moot point. He will not be coming to Nebraska. He's already kind of made the announcement.
All right, let's spin the wheel again. Big bucks. There it is. There it is. There it is. Let's go. Stop. Luke Fickell at Cincinnati made the college football playoff last year, has Big Ten ties, coached at Ohio State, 56-23 overall. Defensive-minded guy could be used at Nebraska right now, transformed Cincinnati into one of the best defenses in the country. He knows how to win. He's got Midwest connections, especially in Ohio. The cons would be he's fickle. He left Michigan State at the altar a few years ago when Mel Tucker had to take the gig because he turned it down. They thought they had him. He didn't do well as an interim coach at Ohio State either.
No, he was 7-6 that year, and what was it? Saturday Night Live and the not ready for primetime players. Like, he was the star of that show. He was not quite ready for prime time, but what he's done at Cincinnati, I think speaks for itself. And the fact that he did kick the door down and get into the playoff with a group of 5 school. I don't know. I'm not going to be thrilled to get another group of 5 guy, but if we do, I probably would be kind of happy it would be Luke Fickell.
Where's Cincinnati currently? In the AAC?
Yeah, they're in the AAC.
Where did Nebraska get their last coach?
That was
the AAC. So I don't know. I think he's a very good coach. I just don't want him at Nebraska. Dave Doran. Oh, I gave it away. He was already there. The wheel. You're supposed to wait for the wheel to land on Dave Doran. That's where it landed. Amazing that I said it, and then it landed on Dave Doran of North Carolina State. He is the head coach, 89-53. His first year at North Carolina State, he went 3-9. Then every year since, they have made a bowl game. One drawback, his offensive coordinator is named Tim Beck, although he's done really well. And he's actually my favorite offensive coordinator at Nebraska over the last maybe 15 years. I think he's an innovative dude. But a lot of people believe North Carolina State has risen because Florida State, West Virginia, Miami have all fallen. Do you buy that?
A little bit. But at the same time, even though those others have fallen, you still have to play the games. You still have to coach the guys the right way. And I don't know. I think he's been successful. And I'll be honest with you. I think they may finish in the top 10 this year.
And he's had good recruiting classes. So,
yeah.
But it's in the ACC. You always wonder, can the guy, switch his recruiting ground? Because you have to be really good in the Midwest. Not that you can't recruit both. I wouldn't disqualify him because he's done very well at a school that's not easy to win at North Carolina State. Let's spin the wheel once again. Mike, go get it. There you go. That's a good spin. Big bucks, no whammies. Stop. Zach Taylor. The record is not impressive in the NFL as a head coach. 16-33. I think they were losing to your Cowboys earlier today. Another former Husker, and not the Cincinnati college coach like Luke Fickell is, but the NFL coach at Cincinnati. He did go to a Super Bowl, and he's in that very valuable Sean McVay coaching tree. He's coming off a Super Bowl appearance, runs an innovative pro-style offense. The cons, though, we've been down this road before. Again, Bill Callahan. In fact, he's a Bill Callahan disciple, a Big 12 player of the year, quarterback of the year, player of the year at Nebraska under Bill Callahan. He's not going to leave Cincinnati unless he gets fired to come to Nebraska.
And with their big comeback and Joe Burrow throwing for a TD a minute ago to tie the game at 17 against the Cowboys with 2:28 to go, I don't think he's going to be leaving Cincinnati getting fired anytime soon.
All right, let's spin the wheel. Big bucks. Stop. Bill O'Brien. He is the current offensive coordinator at Alabama. His coaching career, 67-57 as a head coach. He was the key assistant, really, under Bill Belichick when they were running off championships all the time. Then he took over at Houston, did real well early First of all, Penn State, the bad sanctions at Penn State, I thought he did a decent job.
And that was the thing. That's what stood out to me the most about Bill O'Brien was the fact that he walked in after the Sandusky scandal and was able to right the ship to the point where they at least had a viable football program that was able to be competitive, and he didn't leave the cupboard exactly bare for James Franklin.
Right, and he goes from Penn State to Houston. He has Deshaun Watson. They're looking good, and then there's a fallout there. Deshaun leaves, but he went to 4 playoff games in 6 years. But things did go south more recently, and you hate to if he is toxic, and sometimes you hear that about Bill O'Brien. Do you want him in any locker room? Maybe some guys work better, like Urban Meyer, in the college environment than they do in the NFL, but he's a longtime NFL guy.
Yeah, and he's the offensive coordinator at Alabama right now, and I don't know. He's a guy that I was kind of excited that we may have been able to get at some point had what happened last Sunday happened a year ago, although there's rumors that it was actually possibly somebody else. But I would probably be kind of okay with Bill O'Brien.
Well, he's going to the Nick Saban rehab school, as a lot of guys do, and he'll probably be back in coaching when they win a national title again this year. Spin the wheel. There it is. Stop. And we stop at Lance Leipold. 41-43 as the head coach actually overall in his whole coaching career. And now I think 42-43 with the win this weekend. Transformed Buffalo from a bottom feeder to making 6 bowl games. Off to a 3-0 start. Big 48-30 win, as you pointed out earlier, over Houston. Now they have back-to-back wins over West Virginia and Houston. It took him 6 years, so he's a builder. That might turn off some Nebraska fans who are looking for a quick fix.
Well, but that's the thing is I don't want a quick fix. I just simply want things to be done the right way. And I want it was done so not the right way for the last 4+ years.
Right.
And I don't think that, and again, Trev Alberts is going to hire the guy that he truly believes more than anyone else. He thinks the guy he hires is going to win a national title at Nebraska. And whatever the time frame is, he doesn't care. He truly believes that's going to be the guy. That's what he's ultimately going to do. Nebraska fan would not be happy with Lance Leipold because that would be another total rebuild 5 years down the road, and that's not what Nebraska fan wants. But if Trev thinks it's in the best interest of the program.
However, the rebuild has not been that dramatic at Kansas. This is his second year, right?
Yeah.
This is his second year at Kansas. Struggled for a while at Buffalo, as I mentioned, turned it around, won a national championship at Wisconsin Whitewater. Not that I'm giving him a lot of points for that, but I think I've been told he's a very good coach, and he has Nebraska connections, was an assistant coach at UNO and at Nebraska from 94 to 2006.
Yep.
He knows Nebraska and the lay of the land. That's for sure. They could probably get him. I would think that would be high on Trev Albert's list. Spinning the wheel once again. Go ahead. Here we go. No whammies. You liking the wheel sound effect?
I am. I love that wheel sound effect.
Who doesn't? It's great. Let's move on to Chris Kleinman, another Kansas coach at Kansas State. Bad loss over the weekend for Adrian Martinez and Kansas State. But he's always going to get you 6 or 7 wins, Kleinman. Actually, 94-30 as a head coach. His teams are tough. They run the ball. They take 2 and 3 stars, many cases JUCOs, and make them very solid players in not a lot of time. They get on campus 6 months later, they're playing football or usually starting, and Nebraska sometimes have guys for 3 years and they can't get them on the field. So I guess that's one thing I do like about Chris Kleinman. He develops players rather quickly at Kansas State.
He does, but he's in a Power 5 conference and he's winning 6 or 7 games. No offense. I don't want Chris Kleinman here.
Well, he's 22-17 overall at Kansas State. And that's a bad loss to Toledo.
But he's got a bad quarterback.
Well, yeah, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's
just saying.
There's no arguing. Adrian has taken his fair share of abuse by everybody in this state, but they should have won that game, and they didn't. And, they're still going to have a better record than Nebraska is this year. This is an interesting one. I can't give it to you until I spin the wheel. The wheel's getting a little old, actually, for me. But Jimmy Caldwell, 33-19 at Coastal Carolina. 45 years old. He built programs wherever he's been. National Coach of the Year in 2020 at Coastal Carolina. Joe Moglia, of course, was the head coach, had Nebraska connections, was on the Bo Pelini staff, and he's recommended him. He said, I don't want to lose him, but he would be a great fit at Nebraska. What do you think? Runs a kind of a fun offense, a spread-style option offense.
I don't know. That's one that I would truly go, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
We've tried some other kind of strange things. A lot of them didn't work out, but yeah, let's go with it.
I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, just Coastal Carolina. It's Division II.
It would be a tough pill to swallow for a Nebraska fan.
Let's spin it one more time. Stop. Matt Campbell. I think Matt Campbell is a name that we've heard for a long time. You've heard maybe even rumors that they were close to hiring him before they extended the Scott Frost contract last year. He's been very good as a head coach. He's 80-49, both at Toledo and Iowa State. Took both those programs to bowl games many times. In fact, 8 of 11 seasons he has been to a bowl game. The cons are he was 0-5 against Iowa until he finally beat them this year. And it reminds me a little bit of Mike Riley. He won 9 games. Great. It's Iowa State, right? It was great because Mike Riley was winning 9 games sometimes at Oregon State. That's the argument against Matt Campbell. He's beneath us.
Nobody's beneath Nebraska. I mean,
at this point, no.
Well, no. But that's the whole thing. I mean, I don't agree with that statement of any coach being beneath any program. I mean, if Nick Saban wants to say I'm going to resign at Alabama and go coach at Coastal Carolina, more power to him.
But Nebraska fans will argue that. Oh, we don't want him. There's only one.
Well, you know what? I think Trev said it in the press conference, last week that Nebraska as a whole needs to stop trying to sell what happened 20 years ago. And focus on that and focus on today and moving forward because we can't make the past happen again by simply talking about it. I've been going back and forth on Matt Campbell simply because I think he probably is the leading candidate if there are any leading candidates as of now. And one day I'm like, we'll give him a shot. And then a day like today, I'm like, well, at least he won't be our coach in 5 years.
I'm going to give you one more. Mark Stoops, he's currently at Kentucky at a basketball school, but he's 62-53. Kind of figured out how to win at a basketball school, which is not easy. They run the football. Vince Morrow is there and one of the best recruiters in college football. We know his son Mike played here and he coached here for a while. And he was a very good recruiter. Some of the better recruits that Bo Pelini recruited were with Vince Morrow. He was in on the Wandell Robinson thing, and I think a big part of getting Wandell to go back to Kentucky after spending a couple of years at Nebraska. What would you think of Mark Stoops at Nebraska?
It'd be an interesting hire. I'd rather have his brother, but
yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of surprised that Bob Stoops' name has not surfaced because I have it on really good authority. That is a bunch of hearsay from somebody's uncle who was a janitor at his elementary school that overheard somebody that was picking up their kid that knew Bob Stoops. Bob Stoops was actually being considered supposedly, or may have been part of the talk.
Bob
with Bill
Stoops
News.
wouldn't consider Bob Stoops at this point.
Probably not.
And he won't do it because he's had so many opportunities to get back in coaching and better jobs than Nebraska.
True.
The knock against Mark Stoops is that he's going to cost at least $7 million. You're probably going to have to pay a big buyout, and then the SEC will probably come calling again in 2 or 3 years anyway.
That and that's the other thing with Matt Campbell. He's got like a $30 million buyout.
Yeah.
So we
It's
just gave
expensive,
Scott Frost, essentially what 18 or 19 million to go away. So it's going to cost us 48 million to bring in a new. That makes it strange with Matt Campbell. I'm going to throw a couple of names out to you really quick that you may or may not have had on your list, but Dave Aranda.
I love Dave Aranda, great defensive coordinator, did it at LSU, did it at Wisconsin, and now at Baylor.
Matt Rule, who was at Baylor.
Right.
Failing with the Panthers.
Yeah, but NFL coaches don't usually translate. College coaches don't translate to the NFL. NFL coaches don't usually translate to college.
So coming back, Jeff Lebby, he was just in the stadium yesterday, making Nebraska's defense look silly. And then the one that I had heard, and after watching Washington last night, if Kalen DeBoer was named Nebraska's head coach, I would not be disappointed at all.
You know what? I want to hear the story. Because I really don't know. The only one that I've really known over the last, because I was all on board with Bo Pelini, as most of us were. Yeah. He was a great defensive mind. When Mike Riley was announced head coach, I freaked out. This cannot be true. This has to be some sort of joke.
I literally thought that like somebody, I was like, is it April 1st?
No, somebody's screwing with me. This is not true, because I wanted Jim Tressel, which was never going to happen either, because he had a show cause.
So fun.
But it was so unsexy. And then when Sean Eichhorst steps up and said he was the only name in my drawer. Well, what are you doing? I mean, even if you believe that's the guy, which you never should have believed, that's the only name you have. That means you have no plan. It's like you have, I mean, and that's one of my favorite things about how Trev is approaching this. I'm going to talk to everybody, and you're going to hear me talk to guys, and then you're going to say, well, that must be the front runner. No, I'm just talking to guys.
Yep.
And that's called research, which other athletic directors have not always done. So I have faith that Trev will do a good job in the search. Will he get the right guy?
We'll know in 3 or 4 years.
We all thought Frost was the right guy. I mean, there were very few people who argued against it. I thought it was a home run hire. I was dead wrong. It didn't work out. Steve Taylor had something to say about Scott Frost.
Oh, yeah.
Our interview with Steve before the show, it was good stuff. We'll listen to it because it's recorded, and we'll play it back to you coming up. It's Husker Rewind. It's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens. Back with more after this.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $22.58 per hour. And other select jobs is starting at $24.28 per hour, with wages growing up to $30.30 per hour. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Neil Armstrong waited 6 hours and 39 minutes to step onto the surface of the moon. Jackie Robinson waited 20 months to play his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And even DiCaprio had to wait 22 years to win an Oscar. You can wait until your destination. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Into the building for the first time after the shooting. It was crippling, but it had to be preserved.
In response to the Pulse nightclub shooting that affected the LGBTQ community, Barbara Poma, owner of Pulse, founded the One Pulse Foundation to honor Pulse victims and survivors.
If you're an ally of this community, speak out. There are more of us together than apart. It is the power of love in its rawest form.
Join the fight for LGBTQ acceptance. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
What I know about courage, I learned from my adoptive mom. She said sometimes you just gotta hold on and know we'll get through this. Mom, we are so high up. Hold my hand.
No, you hold my hand.
Here we go.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt U.S. Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
This is the Sunday Rewind on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to the Husker Rewind. I'm Mike Melby. That is Tom Stevens. And it is another fun-filled Sunday late evening or late afternoon, early evening where Nebraska no longer has a member of their coaching staff.
Yep. Eric Shenander has been fired as the defensive coordinator after giving up 49 points. And let's be honest, 49-14, the final score. Nebraska gives up 580 yards. Oklahoma, if they wanted to put up 70, they could have
put up, it could have been 98-14.
Right. And by the way, Dylan Gabriel is not very good.
No.
He's made a nice 61-yard run where nobody tried to tackle him. So he scored a touchdown, but he missed wide open wide receiver after wide open wide receiver. You thought that Adrian Martinez was the quarterback at times.
Exactly.
And I don't want to bash Martinez because I love the
It's
guy.
just facts.
Yeah.
He's a good human being. He's just not a very good football player. Dylan Gabriel is realistically, if he plays as well as, I don't know, Caleb Williams
right
in that game, it could have been 56-7 at half.
Right. I mean, he made some solid throws. He was very good with slants, but he missed some deep throws that were just wide open. And now Tommy Hill, who we thought was, the talk coming out of camp was
he looked good.
Yeah, he's going to be an All-American. He's going to be in the league to getting benched in that game. So we'll see how that goes. But Braxton Clark did take his place in the game. But, some of it is the message is getting lost, right? Sometimes we've all had that where teachers say things and after a while you just go, yeah, whatever. I think Eric Shenander, another good guy, but for one reason or another, it wasn't getting through. So Nebraska makes the change. Bill Bush is your defensive coordinator and handling special teams duties. You're down a couple full-time coaches now, Scott Frost and Eric Shenander. And I know they'll bring a guy in from behind the scenes like they did with wide receivers, but that's still a lot to ask for coaches to adjust on the fly. It's a lot to hope that Nebraska can win 5 more games.
It is, but you know what? Why not?
Right.
Because the story's great.
Yeah.
You know who else has a great story is Steve Taylor.
Yeah. In fact, he happens to be on the phone with us. Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing today?
Good. The news just came down. Of course, we knew last week that head coach Scott Frost had been fired after the Georgia Southern game, and now we find out following the 49-14 loss to Oklahoma that Eric Shenander is out. Are you surprised by either of those? Because we haven't talked to you much about Frost.
I was a little surprised with Frost at the timing of it. I thought logistically they would maybe wait because of the structure of the contract, and I thought they may wait till after the OU game. But now I realize and understand why they made it the time that they did. So no, but I wasn't surprised that Frost will let go. Shenander, I'm not surprised at all. Mickey has a lot of things to do now and a lot of decisions to make with some people, and obviously defense unfortunately hasn't done very well this year. And they've had, he's had 4.5 years or whatever to do that, and just hasn't gotten it done defensively. So I think Mickey understands what's going on down there. He understands the state of the program where it is right now, and he's going to do the best he can to put them in a position where Nebraska can have a chance to be competitive once again.
Former Nebraska quarterback Steve Taylor joining us here on the Husker Rewind. Steve, you know Mickey Joseph pretty well. What are you expecting out of him? Obviously, he's getting a shot at an audition for the head coaching job. What are you expecting out of him as the season progresses? Obviously, great communicator, great motivator, but where do you see him making the biggest difference being the man in charge?
I think the biggest difference is it's going to be structure, consistency with the program, as far as the day-to-day operations. He's going to get players in the right positions. He's going to get players that should be playing on the field. I think he's going to have the trust of the players. Matter of fact, I already know he has that just by the ones that I've talked to, that I've seen him with Mickey and whatnot. They gravitate to him, and obviously he's been a great recruiter, and he just has that kind of he has that it as far as being able to motivate people and players to trust him. I've seen that. He's a lot like Barry Switzer a little bit in that way. I was talking with someone else. He has that type of energy, and then you throw the Nebraska side in there with the teachings and the learnings from Coach Osborne. So he kind of has that good mix and good balance, and that's why I think he could do very, very well as an interim head coach and then possibly as a head coach. So I'm good about the decision Trev has made. That they've been excellent since he's arrived here.
Former Nebraska All-American quarterback Steve Taylor, you played in a time where you always knew that Tom Osborne was going to be your coach. There was great consistency on the staff. He always had the same guys. There must have been a comfort with that. And Nebraska, of course, has gone through several changes at the head coaching position since you left the program, with Frank Solich and then Bill Callahan, and then Bo Pelini had some success for a while, and then they moved on to Mike Riley, and now the guy that we really thought would achieve, maybe beyond all of those with the exception of Osborne, was Scott Frost. What in your mind went wrong in the Scott Frost era?
It is so mind-boggling with the things apparently Scott had done, and the way he had run the program. I was 100% behind Scott when he signed here. I thought he was a great candidate for it. I thought he could do great things here. He checked a lot of boxes, as far as having a resume, the experience, and the history. I did not know what it was like personally. I golfed a couple of times with Scott, way back in like 1998 or 99 or something like that. And he said some things. One thing I know that kind of was mind-boggling to me at the time, but I just put it in my memory bank. But unfortunately, Scott he wasn't who I thought he was, and I can see it in his actions. And so, but it was mind-boggling to me because we were both quarterbacks here and he was from here. But I just couldn't believe the things that he would do and the things that he would say and his actions. So. And once I learned that, I knew that it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So some guys have some foresight because they knew Scott, like Tommy Frazier, and so he knew things that we didn't, and so I was surprised. It was very disappointing. I think it felt like one of the biggest betrayals that someone could have for another former Husker to be the way he was and at a position that you thought he would be just so much different.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
By what?
I mean, that you just you weren't impressed by the man at all, Scott Frost?
Yeah, absolutely, I wasn't. And I tried many times, and I think what it was with me was this year when the last kind of straw that broke the camel's back when Mickey came back, and I decided because all the players were coming back, and it felt like, hey, we got a voice here. Mickey's back, so they were reaching out, and so I thought, let's throw a celebration, not a celebration, but let's have a reunion because all the players usually come back in the spring, and with all the disconnect and the firing of the coaches and of athletic directors and everything, there are a lot of players that didn't feel like they were part of the program, and that was a problem. That was a huge problem. I didn't like it, and I said, I'm going to see what I can do. So I put together, got sponsors, and was going to have the celebration reunion. Just for former players, administrators, and people in our close circle. And I went to Trev and got his blessing, and Trev was all over it. So I had a conversation with Scott about it. I personally, and this is at practice, I personally invited Scott to come. And I said, hey, we want you to come. We need you to come. We would like you to come. And we want you to come as a player, not as a head coach, just as a player. We're just going to reunite everyone, and we're just going to have break bread. We're just going to have conversation and get this connect back with there's certain players who didn't feel connected. And unfortunately, Scott went on about a 30-minute rant about things I just could not believe what he was saying. And one in particular was how he was upset that the players weren't supporting him. And then that was blatantly not true. And I said, do you not remember the reception that you got when you signed your contract? Now the players are here. And he was losing games, and players had their own voice and they were saying things, but they still supported Scott. But anyway, he just said some things to me that I really couldn't believe. And I've always had a pretty good relationship with Scott. We would talk just as, quarterback to quarterback amongst things. And I know he was frustrated with the season, but everything he said, I couldn't believe. And by the way, he didn't come to the reunion. And I was disappointed, but I really didn't care because I was doing this for the University of Nebraska Lincoln. And the turnout was wonderful. It was great. And Osborne was there. Trev was there. I mean, it was awesome. And but it was disappointing he was not there. And he needed to be there because the players wanted to see him and wanted to see what he just relayed to us. And he didn't come. And that was a decision that he made. We specifically had the times of the gathering that he could make it after the spring game, or would be a conflict of any kind whatsoever. And but he did not show up. So that's when I thought, he's just a different way. And so I just left it at that.
Maybe not overly a bad thing that he didn't show up. Just going to say, one thing I want to ask you about is with the change that was made today, we're talking to former Nebraska All-American quarterback Steve Taylor. Eric Chenander is out. Bill Bush is in as the defensive coordinator. How well do you know Bill? How well do you know his coaching style? What changes do you expect to see in the defense with Bill Busch running and calling the defense for the rest of the season?
You know, it's interesting because I knew of Bill. Like, I talked to Bill a few times, you know, throughout his lifetime and my lifetime, just, you know, here and there at a gathering when he was back in town or whatnot. I always knew he was a great recruiter just by talking with him and his resume and what he's done in the past. Didn't know much about him. I knew he knew football. I knew that. And then obviously what he did at LSU. Now, I got to know Bill a little bit more once Mickey came back because Mickey talked about Bill quite a bit. And so I learned more about him through Mickey. And Mickey trusts him immensely, you know, and work with him. And they have a lot of things in common, you know, as far as like how they feel about coaching. So I think Bill is very, very, obviously very well, he's capable of being a defensive coordinator. I think it's a good way. It's a great decision Mickey made to have him as an interim defensive coordinator because he can slide right in there. He can still coach and he can coordinate. So that'll help. And Mickey trusts him. So that's what it's all about right now is trusting guys down there, guys that's going to have your back and your support and not try to undermine you in that way. So it's another move that Mickey made, and he made it relatively quick, which I think needs to happen, you know, so you can gain the confidence of the players. The players already are confident in Bill, but to get that where you can still, so the season's not over with yet. They can still do some things in the West. And but we got to get our ship in order, and I think Mickey is doing that. And there are some other decisions that need to be made, I think, with people that are toxic down there, from my conversations with them. And they've been toxic for a long time. And we'll see if Mickey makes those decisions as well and, you know, to get through this season.
And Steve, I'm not going to ask you to expand and elaborate on who the toxic people are. I do, though, want to ask you about a comment from post-game yesterday by Miles Farmer. They were talking about the poor tackling, and Miles essentially said, we've been tagging out for 4+ years. Okay, we haven't been tackling in practice. It's going to take a little time. What do you think of that comment from the fact that, I mean, he kind of was throwing, you know, his coaches under the bus a little bit because it seemed like he was a little aggravated that they have not been tackling and that it was something they were struggling with. That's just my perspective of what he said. I would like to know what your perspective of it is.
You know, just to be frank with you, things like that just was mind-boggling to me that they did not tackle. I can't even comprehend that. And more so with Scott Frost, we both played at Nebraska. We know how we practice. Now, definitely, is this a different day and age? Absolutely. But there's certain fundamentals about football that will remain the same. 100 years ago to today, you got to be able to tackle. And in order to tackle, you have to do it in practice. You got to hit. Mm-hmm. You got to hit. Yeah, is injury a natural part of sport? Yes, it is. And you want to do everything you can for that not to happen. But I would hear things and see things with my own eyes like that from the administration, and it was mind-boggling. Yeah. Absolutely, and I would say, I got inside sources down there. They would tell me many, many stories about what's going on with the university and what they're doing down there, and I would say, absolutely not, no way, that would never happen. And they would say, yeah, it's true. And I was like, no way, no, it's true. And when I hear comments like that, it's been consistent for 5 years. Yeah. Blows me away. And so I'm like, I can't even comprehend such a thing. And it was things like that were disappointing. And that's all a reflection, unfortunately, of the head coach. Yeah. That's where it lies. And so it was just a constant disappointment of things I would hear like that came from the administration that I knew was not a good recipe to be successful. And that's why they were not successful.
Former Nebraska All-American.
Another reason why they're not.
Steve Taylor, our guest. You've heard the comments I have for 5 years, for 4.5 years. Hey, if Scott can't get it done, then it can't be done at Nebraska. I don't believe it for a second. But there are those who say, you know, go get Urban Meyer, even though he's taken himself out of the discussion. You need a big-name coach to get this thing turned around because a lot of people don't want to wait for a 5-year rebuild. How far away in your mind is Nebraska football from being successful on the football field?
You know, it's like this. Nebraska's maybe they could be realistically, they could be 2 or 3 years away. They could almost be a year away. And they can also be 10 or 15 years away. So it's because, and I tell people this, I'm not from Nebraska. I'm from California, right? I lived here most of my life. But I don't care if you lived here and played here, you don't love Nebraska more. You don't love Nebraska any more than I do. So my point is, it's not going to take a Nebraska guy to get this done. And the fans need to understand that. And no one knows who that guy is going to be except someone that's in the industry and they follow coaching, who that young and up-and-coming young coach is coming up. No one knew Devaney was going to be Devaney. No one knew Osborne was going to be Osborne, or Dabble, or Saban, or any of those coaches. No one really knew. And so here's what I can tell you what it's going to take. It's going to take a fairly young, energetic, charismatic coach with a dynamic personality and a knowledge of football to be successful here. That's the type of person it's going to take. And you got one right now staring you right in the face. And I'm not saying this because it's Mickey Joseph, but Mickey checks a lot of those boxes.
Yeah.
A lot of them. So he can do it. He can do it. He can do it. And he has the knowledge and the pedigree to do it. So we'll see how it plays out. And but he's going to have some tough decisions to make, and he has to make them in a short period of time.
Yeah.
No question about it. But so that's what I think what it's going to take. It doesn't need to be someone from the University of Nebraska or the state of Nebraska.
I totally agree. And he's already made a big decision. He's decided to unload his defensive coordinator, Eric Shenander, no longer with the Nebraska program. Steve, we appreciate your time. This is great stuff. We'd love to have you back.
No, thank you very much. And I just like to try my loyalty to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, not to one particular head coach, not to an athletic director. And I think for me, being on the radio for all those years, people understand that. So when I say things that I know and what I believe.
Yep.
And it's nothing negative against Frost or anything like that, because I wanted Scott to be successful here because it was the best thing for the University of Nebraska. And it was just unfortunately very, very disappointing. But now we got to move on, and we got a guy that has opportunity to do it. So let's just see what he does, and get this team back to where we can be competitive.
How's the golf game right now? Good.
I need to put the 6 down. I'm not losing money, so that's good. But I'm not scoring like I used to. But Ireland took a lot out of me, and I always get kind of burned out anyway. But now I'm gonna put the clubs down for a couple of days and get ready for the fall, and maybe I can start scoring again.
Steve can hit it. Steve can really, really hit the golf ball. Good stuff.
And so can you. And we're going to do it again, and we're going to play, and we're going to have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. He took $12 from me, so I owe him. Steve, thanks for the time. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. You guys take care.
Take care.
What do you make of those comments? He used Scott Frost and the word betrayal in the same sentence.
Yeah, and I took it as him meaning they have a brotherhood. They have a family. We've seen the Nissan commercials with the Heisman House. Okay, it's a brotherhood. And if you're a Nebraska football player, I don't care if you were a walk-on and played one play in your entire 4 or 5 years you were here, or if you are Tommy Frazier, Eric Crouch, Johnny Rogers, Mike Rozier, Steve Taylor. It's a brotherhood. And for somebody that belongs in that brotherhood and was such an integral part as a player of that brotherhood to do the things we've heard that he did or didn't do. I'm not going to get into it. Other people have publicly, but I'm going to leave it. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, research it a little. But I think as a brotherhood, Steve Taylor's saying we felt betrayed that he let this fall.
Yeah. He also mentioned that he invited Scott as a player. He didn't want him there as a coach. He wanted him there as a brotherhood of a player, of the players. He invited him to a reunion that he put together, I believe, last summer. Talked to Scott Frost about it. And Scott went on a rant about some of the players not supporting him at a high enough level. And he didn't show up at that reunion, that Husker reunion. So I think that bothered Steve a little bit.
It was pretty obvious it did.
Yeah,
so
it bothered him a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe a few other Huskers as well. So there's stories that start to come out, and I don't want it to become that, because it should be,
about moving forward.
It should be about moving forward to the next coach, but you have a lot of time because now there's a bye week. So I guess we get into some of those things. And Nebraska's hurting. Nebraska football fan base is just hurting right now. But we'll get through. And there'll be another coach, and we'll find out who he is probably sometime in December.
That'd be my guess.
And that's my guess as well. But maybe Mickey Joseph is that guy. Our Wheel of Coaches we did earlier on. I like that segment. We should bring that back on a weekly basis, maybe the top 5 wheel of coaches every week, and rank our top 5.
Yep.
We could do
Good
our ranking of top 5, but we like to rank everything. That's what we do. We've got a few more minutes left in the show.
Yep.
Get off my lawn. It's the Sunday Husker Rewind. He's Mike Melby. I'm Tom Stevens. Back with more after this.
There's nothing quite like the Mercado by Certified Piedmontese beef. The Mercado offers unique ingredients you can't find anywhere else, open every day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The full-service butcher shop and retail store is wonderful for meat lovers with their exclusive Certified Piedmontese beef and assorted sausages, plus other quality meats, including pork, chicken, and a wide range of the freshest seafood. Plus, every Friday from 11 to 2, the Mercado serves up the best lunch in town on their Friday Feast menu. Stop in at the Mercado today at 84th and Havelock or visit their website at cpmercado.com to see current deals.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket. Every Saturday morning now in our new time, we're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
At Venue Catering and Events, we offer 2 of the most historic ballrooms in Lincoln. The Jasmine Room, located in the historic Grand Manse in the heart of downtown, featuring a beautiful built-in antique bar, spacious patio, and soaring skylit ceilings. The Scottish Rite Ballroom, located just 2 blocks from the state's capital, boasts intricate hand-carved columns, rich dark wood floors, and lavish chandeliers. The perfect venues to host your wedding, corporate event, or much more. For availability and more information, call us at 402-603-6483.
Mike Shaver here for Trek CBD. Summer is here, and that means you're having garage parties with neighbors, hitting the golf course and the pool. The drink of this summer isn't your typical seltzer. It's drinkable Delta 8. Yep, Trek CBD has drinkable Delta 8 seltzers with mango and lime flavors for 4-packs, 12-packs, coming in a variety of mango, watermelon, lime, and berry. They also have hemp-derived Delta 9 syrups to put in your beverages, and as always, the excellent Delta 8 gummies. Trek CBD at 84th and Andermatt and TrekCBD.com. Trek CBD, CBD done right.
Working at Continental in Lincoln isn't a job, it's a career. And right now they've raised wages again and they're hiring for production operators at $22.58 per hour. And other select jobs is starting at $24.28 per hour, with wages growing up to $30.30 per hour. Continental also has salary jobs available and great benefits, plus medical and prescription costs at very low premiums. Dental, vision, and life insurance are offered at no premium cost to the associates. To learn more or to apply, go to continental-jobs.com with keyword Lincoln. Come work at Continental today.
Landmark Implement, your local John Deere dealership, is searching for mechanics of all skill levels to grow with us. Landmark offers a competitive wage, full benefits package, along with paid time off within just 60 days of employment, as well as a 401k and a boot and clothing allowance. Interested in becoming a part of the Landmark difference? Apply now at landmarkimp.com/careers or contact Deanna 402-310-7561 or email careers@landmarkimp.com. That's landmarkimp.com. Landmark Implement is an equal opportunity employer.
Back to the Sunday Rewind with Tom and Mike.
That's old school. Yeah? No school like the old school.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back. Tom Stevens here. Mike Melby there. We together. Husker Rewind. Big news today. A week after former Nebraska coach Scott Frost was fired, now Eric Shenander, defensive coordinator, has been let go by head coach Mickey Joseph. Mickey said this: "We appreciate Eric and the work and the dedication that he has given to our football program. At this time, I feel that it is in the best interest of Nebraska football to take the leadership of the defense in another direction, and decided Bill Busch is that guy to be defensive coordinator." How much do you expect to change?
Hopefully the tackling changes for the better. And other than that, you're in the middle of the season. You can't completely change your defensive philosophy. The calls have got to be at least, very similar or the same. I don't know that you're going to see a ton of things change other than fundamentals.
Right. Well, you heard it last week when Mickey was named head coach. He said, to be a better tackling team, you have to tackle. That seemed like a little bit of a shot at what they were doing before. And then you have Miles Farmer after another horrendous tackling performance. And Nebraska's missed like 30 tackles so far this year. Oklahoma runs for 312 yards. The tackling was just terrible. But Miles Farmer says, you know what? It's tag out stuff. It's, you basically, you're what we saw in the spring game apparently is what they were doing a little bit in practice. That is not wrapping guys up and tackling them, and to get good at it. And we remember this under Mike Riley, where they brought in the rugby style tackling. It was a big issue under Mike Riley as well, but it's worse even now than I have seen it during maybe my memory is just bad about the Riley era, but it is horrendous tackling. It looks like bad high school football at times.
It does. And you and I talked about it a little bit earlier in the show that I think there's going to be another change or two that may take place. And Bach was just in here with us, and him and DP are coming up here at 7:00. And we were just talking, I don't think there's going to be a lot of surprise if there's an announcement that a player or two is no longer with the program.
When I look at Nebraska football, I think, what's the identity? Because whether you like it or not, you look at Iowa, they have a definitive identity.
Yeah,
it's boring,
but it works.
It's boring, and they play really good defense. And they beat Nevada's 300 yards is all they had total offense. So they win 27-0 domination. You look at Wisconsin, there's an identity there. Braylon Edwards, 3 touchdowns this weekend. They run the football. Minnesota's got an identity.
Yeah, PJ Fleck.
He
focused on it in the post game.
Yeah, he talked about the 10 from the 10-yard line in, offensive lineman pushing Mo Ibrahim into the end zone. He goes, that's what we're about right there. That's who we are. And he points to it. And I don't see or hear enough of that with Nebraska football. The identity. It's a little bit of this, it's a little bit of that. But I don't know what they do great. Maybe that's why you need to get an identity by doing something really well. And I'm not sure what that is.
The funny thing is, I've never been run the ball guy. I'm more just win the game guy.
Right. I'm a physical guy. But however you do it, be physical.
I'm after watching essentially, and I'll be honest with you, how many lines, offensive or defensive, that has been the opposition of Nebraska in the last 4 years and 4 games? How many lines has Nebraska dominated?
Crickets.
That's Zach Duvall. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
That's our strength and conditioning coach.
And
you're getting dominated. You're getting not manhandled, but you're going.
They didn't last year. I mean, to be fair, you had Damian Daniels, you had Casey Rogers, you had Ben Stille, you had guys that weren't getting pushed around on a regular basis last year.
But they also weren't 2 yards on the other side of where the ball was snapped. Half a second after the ball was snapped, they were not dominating the line of scrimmage on the offensive. Last year was good, but that should be the worst it should ever be. Otherwise, I mean,
it's not good enough.
The line of scrimmage moves a couple of yards either way, the wrong way for Nebraska way too often.
I remember the comment by PJ Fleck. It was like 3 years ago. Nebraska played at Minnesota. And after the game, he always says something smart, alecky, because he's just a kind of a clown, but he's a really good football coach. But he said something about, we felt we could get Nebraska turned sideways. And they did. I mean, coaches look at video of Nebraska and they think, well, we can take advantage of this and we can take advantage of that. And it happens in way too many areas fundamentally. You heard Mickey in the postgame talk a lot about we need drills for fundamentals because we're bad at everything. We can do the team drills later on, but we're so bad individually. We got to work on our fundamentals. And I think a lot of coaches watch film in Nebraska and think we can take advantage of these dudes.
And that's the thing is he didn't win the press conference. He just stated some obvious facts and he's just open and honest and a good, genuine human being. And like I said, I like the moves he's made. And I hope somehow, some way he finds the rabbit in the hat and we at least win 5 more games this year. I don't know if they will, but for the sake of him and the effort and the love that he has for this program and all of that, I hope they somehow figure out a way to do it.
And here's the thing. He's going to try like heck to do it. I mean, he's going to spend 17, 18 hours killing himself in the office to make this thing happen for Nebraska.
Yep.
If it doesn't succeed, it won't be because, Mickey just went through the motions. Mickey's going to work at it. And he's already shown that he's going to work at it.
It won't be because he's just working 8 to 5. No innuendo there.
Watch it. We're leaving. Look at that. The Husker hour and a half today. It's usually 2 hours long. We thought we had Broncos football, but we didn't for some reason. But this is great because it's going to continue. Bach is here. DP is here.
Yep.
and they're gonna take this news. Eric Shenander fired as the defensive coordinator at Nebraska. He's been there since Scott Frost was hired in 2018, but now he is no longer. Bill Busch takes over the coaching duties. But we're leaving. We'll be back with another show. It's going to be a bye week next week, so no score predictions.
No, but I do have a score prediction. Nebraska's going to sweep in volleyball against Michigan State and Ohio State Friday, Saturday, next weekend at Devaney. And I think next week we had to talk to Tanya Talkie and talk a little Nebraska volleyball. Maybe even see if we can get, I don't know. Who's
going to stop us? It's our show.
Let's try to call in a favor and see if we can get somebody else from the volleyball team.
That'd be awesome.
I don't know.
Let's try to do that.
I think we should.
We need to call in some favors. We never do that. But we are leaving. DP is here. Bach is here. They're going to talk more about the news announced earlier today. Eric Shenander fired as the defensive coordinator at Nebraska, and they'll hit some other stuff as well. So more to continue on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
See you.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now in our new time. We're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club or space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? No, forget that. How about a margarita club? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge and join